Hello, welcome back to Frogboy X1 Gaming. I'm Andrew, and today we're going to talk about console gaming versus PC gaming and how I no longer see consoles as the ultimate better value over PC gaming. And we're going to get into that today. So this might be a little bit longer of a video. So if you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. So if you know, I have I started this channel as a console gamer, 100% console gamer. I still love my consoles. I still play them. I still buy content for them, and I still value that experience that I get with the console platforms, both Xbox and PlayStation. I'd always been more of a PlayStation fan, but over the last few years, I've kind of drifted more toward the Xbox ecosystem and the Xbox platform in general. And that's where I kind of get into this now because about a year ago I bought the PC mainly so that I could see, the difference, between the next gen games and what their counterparts on the PC were going to be. I still 100% intended to play most of my content on my consoles and just kind of use the PC more to run the channel as it is, but as we've been getting certain games coming out lately, I've been I've been forced to buy them on my PC so that I can have an optimal experience or the better experience. Because let's face it, guys, we bought these consoles on the precipice or on the presumption that they were going to deliver a 4K 60 experience and that we were going to be able to finally utilize our 4K screens for our video game. And sadly, that has, for the most part, with all the cross-gen games, that's been pretty good. We've been pretty spoiled, but now we're starting to see games that are coming out that are, more geared toward the next gen consoles, with higher fidelity visuals, with more going on in them, better physics, stuff like that, that are seemingly starting to take away from either our resolution or our frame rate. And we came into this generation, guys, thinking that we were going to have our cake and eat it too. But as we've seen with recent titles, Forspoken running 720p at 45 frames a second on PlayStation 5, and games, like Wild Hearts running at 1080p at 60 frames. Now there's more experiences out there that I haven't named, but we are going to be seeing a lot more of those. And that really sucks. That really sucks. But that's why I feel like this video needed to be made, especially for the community that we've built here, that want to know these things, that want to be able to, because let's face it, man, a lot of us have watched Digital Foundry, have watched all these places, and the PC guys, they kind of come off as these elite snobs, and I don't want to be like that on this channel. But things are changing. That things are definitely changing pretty rapidly, especially with these newer games that are coming out, like Hogwarts Legacy. While it does look pretty decent on the consoles, if you're playing on a 4K screen, if you it's or if you're playing on a 1440p monitor, like the experience the experience for consoles on a 1440p monitor is great. Like it's perfect. It doesn't need any fine tuning there. It actually works pretty decently. It's when we start getting into the 4K experience and how that starts to deviate from the experience that we thought we were going to get. And it is pretty drastic when we come from games like Assassin's Creed Valhalla or any of them other games that we've been getting over the last couple of years that have been able to give us, a good looking image on a 4K screen and still be able to give us a 60 FPS performance mode. It's starting to really it's like this console generation is really starting to show that deviation a lot more with these newer games. And I worry about it. So if we go back and we look at the PlayStation 3 generation, and I believe it was a different revision of the Xbox 360 that we actually were starting to get like 1080p. That's when 1080p was starting to be the main thing. Those consoles barely delivered 1080p on a lot of those experiences. It wasn't until we got Xbox One and PlayStation 4 that we actually started to hit those upper bounds of 1080p at 30 frames a second, where we were starting to hit that. And you have to look at this. You have to look at the history so that you can kind of understand where we are right now today. and just the cost that we've put into this experience. So if we're at PlayStation 4 where we're starting to barely hit 1080p at 30 frames a second, and then we get our PlayStation 4 Pro and our Xbox One X, where we were, they focused more on the resolution and the pretty visuals, and still were giving us our 30 frames a second, but we were past that 1080p point for the most part. If you're a PlayStation fan like myself, you know that you were still wading around in 1080p, well into the PS4 Pro, and mainly it was like just super AAA games that were doing anything to make the resolution any better on a 4K screen. So then we get into this generation. And now we are starting to finally be able to get 1080p at 60 frames a second or above, 60 FPS plus at 1080p. So we're already, if you're just a PlayStation fan, and you bought your PlayStation 3 at $600, you bought your PlayStation 4 at $400, then you bought your PS4 Pro for another $400. I'm going from my experience. And then you bought your PlayStation 5, which I bought the disc version, so it was another $500. I'm already $1,900 into just barely being able to get 1080p at 60 frames a second. $1,900. For this PC out of the gate, I spent $1,600 for it. It was almost $1,700. So that there was cheaper than all of those. And this PC can run every single one of those games from the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360 generation, all the way up to now. With the 3060 Ti card, I could get 4K at over 60 frames a second on anything that came out prior to these new next-gen games. And all of the cross-gen games and stuff, I could get a 4K 60 experience with that 3060 Ti, and that cost me $200 less than all four of those PlayStation consoles, and I can still run the gamut of all those games. And if I own any of those games on Steam, I can still play those, and I can still max them out, literally max them out. So there's why I say that literally I can no longer say that console gaming is a better value than PC. Now, PC does have a higher cost up front. Like that's given. And PC does come with some of those interesting issues that you're not going to find on a console. Like you're not going to find those on a console, but the fact that you can get in there and change whatever you want to experience the games however you want, like this all sounded foreign to me a year ago as well. Like it did. And I feel like with with the community that we've built here, these are things that the community, I believe, wants to know. And they don't, like the PC elitist dudes, they never do a really good job of explaining this. And I might not do a good job either. But you take you take just the PlayStation reference. For all the consoles that I bought in the last, what is that, 13 years or so, maybe a little more, since 2013, then back all the way to 2007. So if you go through all of that and you look at all of that, so I mean that is a lot of years. And if you were to buy a PC back then for that type of a cost, yeah, you would definitely be at more money just to get to the next card. But at the same time, your whole library of Steam games continues to go with you. You don't ever have to wait for them to upgrade them. You don't ever have to wait for them to give you a to see if they're going to be backward compatible or anything like that. Like all your games are going to go forward, and they're going to get better every time you put in a new graphics card. You're going to be able to max everything out even more, whether that's frame rate or visuals. You're going to be able to continue to grow your library all on Steam and be able to save tons of money on just the video game. So if you go back to PlayStation 3 is when they started the $60 for a year. So $60 a year. So wait, 2007 to, we'll just do like 13, 15. We'll just do like 15 years. So $60 have 15 years. Okay, $60 times 15. That's $900 that you paid just to play your games online. And if you're a PlayStation guy, just to have your saves online. You paid $900 in 15 years to be able to play those games online. That's 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 literally a high-end graphics card. That's literally a high-end graphics card that will get you 4K for a long time. Now, if you're gonna now pretty much like your 4090, your 4080, your 4090s right now are gonna max your 4K 120 FPS screen out. Like they're gonna max your screen out. So this is where you can be a little bit smarter. Some of them games you're going to need the extra grunt to run that quality of visuals, with ray tracing, all of that stuff. You're going to need that. But most of the games that you're going to play, like an open world game, you can get anywhere from like 65 to 75, 80 frames a second. That is really good. That feels really good. That definitely feels better than playing at 60 frames a second. And it will take a minute, but once you get in there and you start to feel how smooth this stuff kind of translates and feels, it definitely, every frame over 60 definitely feels better. It starts to get even smoother, and it looks smoother, and it feels better. And you might be thinking, well, man, all I need is, or I'm okay with 30 frames a second, or I'm okay with 60 frames per second. I'm like, man, that kind of sounds to me, that sounds a little bit defeated. Like it sounds like that we're accepting defeat when we say that. Because as a console gamer, man, if you go all the way back to regular Nintendo and add up all the consoles that you bought, if you're my age, if you add all of that up, man, dang, dude, we've spent so much money keeping PlayStation and Xbox and all of these dudes alive that that like seriously they can't bring us a console that's like worthy of us, spending a little bit of extra money. I would have rather have had a console that would actually give me the 4K 60 at $1,000, dude. I would have just rather paid $1,000 instead of getting a half-wit product that's not gonna do what they say it's gonna do, especially when we start getting into the next gen games. Now there's a lot of buzzwords, mesh shaders and VRS and blah 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 and DirectML and geometry engine and this and that and checkerboard rendering and all of these things and foveated rendering. There's all these different technologies that they say are going to give us that experience. Well, I'll tell you what, man. Having a capable PC that actually will give me 4K at 60 frames a second, I guarantee you everything I've seen on that 4K TV on the PC at native 4K at 60 frames a second has looked better than the checkerboard rendering or the foveated rendering or the VRS technology or this or that or that. And if I wanted to step it up a notch, like DLSS takes your 4K image and makes it look even better. And I'm like, wow, that's incredible. How did, like, that is what I'm talking about. And I would love to see that technology come to the consoles, and I would definitely be fine with that. If I got what I get on the PC, like looking at the PC with Magic or whatever, that'd be okay. I'd be okay with that. If I could run it at 60 frames a second and get that, I would be okay with that. But let's face it, we're not getting that. We're not going to get that. We're going to literally get games that are 1080p with cutback, with lots of cutbacks at 60 frames a second, or we're going to get 4K at 30 frames a second. And I don't know about you, but me, I have a hard time with 30 frames a second on this OLED screen. Now, back when I just had the M series, QLED, that 30 FPS wasn't really that bad, like on an LCD screen. Even on the monitor, when I play a 30 frames per second game on here, it's still definitely not that bad. It definitely feels better. Now you can put your Xbox into 120 FPS mode, use VRR, and use low frame rate compensation to kind of get rid of that jitter a little more. Like I can do that with certain games, and they look a lot better. They do play better. But at the end of the day, man, like all you want is to be able to look at your games and enjoy them and see them for what they are. And I'll tell you, man, like the biggest eye opener for me going to the PC was going back and looking at 360 games and then early games from like the PS4 and Xbox generation. Rise Son of Rome is a beautiful game. It was beautiful on Xbox One when it first came out, and I don't think there's anybody that would deny that. But Rise Son of Rome at 4K with max settings looks incredible. looks incredible, truly a beautiful game. And I'm like, whoa. And then when you go back even further and you check out like something like Castlevania, Lords of Shadows 2. Now that game looked all right back on the 360 and whatever. Like, I mean, I was like, okay, but then once the PlayStation 4 and stuff came out, you're like, ooh, boy, no, that looks way dated. But now, like looking at that on the PC with max settings at 4K, oh boy, that game is incredible. All the detail and everything that we've been leaving on the table with these consoles for so long, man. If you could only see the transformation that happens when you play these games on PC, you would instantly understand that, like, wow, man. And you would kind of understand why all the PC guys kind of like look at us and talk down to us and stuff like that, because like we don't know what we're talking about. Like we're literally over on Twitter fighting about which, like Onyx says in the thing, which one of these midgets is taller than the other one. And I'm like, what are we doing, man? Like seriously, it's that bad that like they're making fun of us because we're sitting here trying to pump up our chests over these consoles that can barely do like 30 frames a second and stuff. And I mean, like it is cool that they're like $500, but man, I'll tell you what, dude, I'm more impressed with what I get from the Series S at that price point, as a console. Because that right there, that's probably why I'm so easy on the Xbox Series S, because that to me is a console. I bought this as a console to play, like a console, like a Nintendo, or to sit the kids in front of. Like, this is a console. This is designed for kids. This is designed to run on basic TV on a basic screen, and still be able to give you, like 120 FPS if you wanted to get a monitor or something like that for it. The Series S is impressive for a console. I bought a PlayStation 5 and an Xbox Series X because I thought they were designed for my age group. But as you can see, both of these are just beefier consoles that try to emulate a 4K experience on a 4K screen. And that, my friends, if we went out to buy those consoles because clearly we want our 4K to look good and we want to be able to play our video games and we want them to feel better and we want them to feel next gen, well, guys, I just don't think a console experience is ever going to truly produce what it is we're looking for. And I'm convinced of that now. I am convinced that like if our thing is visuals and playability and stuff like that, like PC is kind of the way to go. And they've like the PC experience has broken down so many walls that used to be so annoying for gamers that, like, I didn't want to ever play with a mouse and keyboard. I don't want to play with a mouse and keyboard. I still don't. I can hook up my DualSense Edge to my PC, my Xbox my Xbox Series 2 Elite controller. All of these controllers work just fine. Man, I even bought $20 software to use my PSVR for my racing games on my PC. The expandability of being able to do so much on the PC, it's just mind-blowing. It really is just mind-blowing. Now, the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X are clearly the best consoles we've ever gotten. They do have really good CPUs. They have pretty dang good GPUs. They're not bad if we're playing last gen games. They are not bad. If we're playing last gen games, we can get maxed out settings, all of that stuff. That's cool, man. But the visuals, man, the visuals are what change every generation for these systems mostly. That's the one thing that developers are going to focus on the most, is giving you the best eye candy, because we all know that looks matter. Looks matter. You're not going to go out and date an ugly chick. You're not going to be like, oh yeah, she looks great. You know what I mean? um Beauty attracts, it does. And when you see something beautiful on your screen, you're like, oh man, that looks great. And that's like the first step into that. That's why they always hit you with like those cut scenes instead of actual gameplay, because if you saw actual gameplay, you'd be like, oh, I don't know about this. But then they hit you with them really cool, um beautiful cutscenes, and you're like, whoa, man, that looks great. I love that. That's a great game. And then your hype is on something that you're not going to be seeing throughout the whole game. You're going to be seeing the like the in between gameplay, which you're going to be asking yourself, "Oh man, that looks okay. That looks okay," and that's fine. That's fine, dude. Like it's kind of cool. I like getting hyped up for games, but then I get let down a lot too. But at the end of the day, the PC experience now is is getting to a point where it's super user friendly. Like it really is. You get into Steam, you can play around with Steam. If you're coming from Xbox, you've already got a collection of games. If you were buying digitally, you've already got a collection of games. Your Game Pass subscription works just fine on here. You can play all of those games, and it's just like boom, like right there. You got your Xbox controller, everything hooks up. It's super seamless, just like the Series X. Just like the Series X and stuff was going from Xbox One X to Series X, it really is that seamless of an experience. If you are one of those kind of people that just want to stay in that console mindset, you don't even have to download Steam. You don't. You hit the little Windows button, it pulls up the Xbox thing, you pull that out and you play games like you're playing them on your Xbox. It's really that simple. Um, but then you also have, like Steam. Steam is a pretty dang good thing to have. Steam's got a lot of access to a lot of content, so I would definitely look into that. And then there's games on there that, like, for adult people, that if you really want to like see the next level of gaming, man, there's definitely some stuff in there for you, which is cool that you're never going to see on console. You're not going to see that stuff on console. I mean, Cyberpunk 2077 was probably the closest you're going to get to seeing that kind of stuff on a console, and that was like, oh boy. But that's just what I'm saying, man. I no longer feel like consoles offer a better value over PC, especially in the long run. Like I showed you, $900 in 15 years to be able to play your games online. $900. That's a graphics card, man. That's $900 off of the $1,600 that I spent for a 3060 Ti that gives me a better experience than the consoles do. Now 3060 Ti is definitely going to run into some issues VRAM wise if you're trying to go up to 4K. Like there's some games you'll be able to play anything from the PS4 generation back, you should be able to run at 4K and still get 60 frames a second. Well, mostly everything. There's games like Cyberpunk that are definitely going to tax it, and pretty much everything behind that. Like you should be able to play any of that stuff, high refresh rate, being able to do really good on there. The newer games, you're probably going to want like a 3080 or above, 3080 12 gig or above, something with more VRAM at least, like 12 10. I mean, me, like, because I'm going to be playing on 1440p, the 10 gigs is probably okay. But if you want to go above that, you're going to need 12 to 16 gigs of VRAM. Whatever the consoles have, you're going to need that. They're going to be pushing these games a lot harder this generation. So definitely be wise and get something that that's going to last you a few generations. I mean, if you're comfortable with like 60, 70, 80 to 80 frames a second at 4K, yeah, dude, a 3080 Ti, a 3090, whatever, those are perfect cards. And you buy one of those and then you're set for the rest of this generation. You should be able to play every single thing going forward. Like you should be able to do that. I don't see any reason why you can't. There are some snags that you're going to hit in the beginning, um, some stuff, and then you're going to just, like, for me, like, I seriously, every game I buy, I still start it with maximum settings. If there's DLSS, I flick that on to quality, and then I just see where it goes. I just see where it goes. And by and large, I've maybe a few games, like if you turn a frame rate counter on, then you're gonna see like your frames fluctuate. They'll go down into 40s and whatever, but they don't stay in 40s that long. It's just, it just fluctuates so much depending on like certain titles, especially with ray tracing. Ray tracing is definitely gonna give you like some performance issues, but you flip that off and everything runs just smooth and fine. So there's things that you're gonna run into, and you're gonna have questions and you're gonna get frustrated. So it is something that you want to take your time with. Don't get rid of your console because you're going to need that to help you transition. You're going to need that experience for when you're just for when you don't want to deal with something, that you can just play your console and still enjoy gaming. But once you get into PC gaming a little more and things start to roll, you'll start to understand. And most of the stuff is most of the stuff when it comes to gaming is so surface level now that it's not hard. It's not any harder than playing on a console, really. I mean, it really isn't. Um, maybe a few things, if you're like we're right now, Forspoken, the last update that they did kind of broke it. So if I want to play it on PC, I need to roll back my drivers, and that takes a little bit of like sleuthing around to figure out how to do. But it's just little things like that, or you're like trying to do mod support or any of this other kind of stuff, like the advanced stuff. The advanced things, make sure you know somebody that knows how to do that stuff really good before you just start looking online for any kind of stuff like that. As long as you have somebody that you know and trust to help you through that, then I would suggest that. But if not, learn as much as you can before you start playing around with all of that stuff. That's all I'm saying. That's the best advice I can give you out of the gate if you're coming from a console to a PC, is just take your time and learn some of it. There's a lot that you can do on there, but you can 100% plug and play just like a console experience. It's actually pretty easy. So if you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. And this whole PC thing is not gonna affect the overall console work that I do. When there's games that come out and I'm happy with the performance and stuff on the consoles, I will still buy them there. But some games, man, that I really really want to play, man, I might just buy them on the PC because I can 100%, oh, and another thing, if you buy any game you buy on Steam, if you don't like it within 2 hours, you can return it. No questions asked. It's not a big deal. Like you will not be stuck with digital games that you can't return if they're broken or not working good on your PC or whatever. So, and backwards compatibility is incredible on PC. So, if you guys like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. I will see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.